Right now, if your room drops 5 degrees, you reach for a thermostat. You barely think about it. 20,000 years ago, your ancestors faced a drop of 15 degrees across an entire continent. There was no thermostat. There was only ice, wind, and the choice to adapt or disappear. And the real answer for how they survived is far stranger than they wore fur coats. Glaciers as tall as skyscrapers covered most of North America and Europe. Sea levels dropped so low that Siberia and Alaska became connected by dry land. Yet humans spread further across the planet during this period than at almost any other point in prehistory. Why would the coldest chapter of human history also be one of its most expensive? Fire wasn't the biggest survival tool. Clothing was. Around 30,000 years ago, archaeologists in Russia and Ukraine found eyed needles carved from bone, some of the oldest ever discovered. These weren't for draping fur over shoulders. They stitched, tailored, layered clothing, sealed at the seams. Layered fabric traps pockets of still air next to your skin. That trapped air becomes insulation. It's the same principle behind a modern down jacket, built tens of thousands of years before synthetic fabric existed. This single invention may be why humans pushed into Siberia and eventually crossed into the Americas. But clothing alone doesn't explain everything. You still need shelter. And what ancient humans built tells you something about the limits of the body and the power of cooperation. In Eastern Europe, archaeologists uncovered structures built almost entirely from mammoth bones. Skulls stacked into walls, tusks curved into archways. Some were large enough to house extended families through months of brutal cold. Moving a single mammoth skeleton into place took coordinated labor from a group willing to work toward a shared goal with no immediate reward. Survival wasn't individual. It was negotiated through trust. Here's what should sit with you. The Ice Age tested more than the human body. It tested human bonds. Groups that cooperated survived. Groups that couldn't, didn't. Cold wasn't the only pressure. Trust was. Diet shifted too, and that shift may have reshaped the brain itself. Isotopic evidence shows some Ice Age populations drew the overwhelming majority of their calories from animal fat and protein, a pattern almost unheard of elsewhere in human history. Fat from bone marrow and organ tissue is dense in exactly what a large, energy-hungry brain needs. Some researchers argue the nutritional pressure of Ice Age survival may have accelerated cognitive development because a body under constant thermal stress needs a fast brain. Where's the next shelter? Which direction is the herd moving? Who can be trusted with the last of the food? Have you ever noticed how much clearer your thinking feels in cold air? How a freezing morning snaps you awake in a way a warm room never does? Mild cold exposure raises alertness and triggers a burst of noradrenaline. Your body still remembers that cold once meant pay attention or die. Survival also depended on memory passed down without writing. Ice Age humans left cave paintings, carved figurines, and engraved bones many researchers believe tracked lunar cycles or seasonal migrations. Before written language, this was how critical knowledge moved forward. Which valley floods? Which plant heals a wound? Which animal migrates when days shorten? A single forgotten detail could end a family line, so the knowledge had to be repeated until it stuck. You still do a version of this. The stories your family repeats, the warnings passed from parent to child, the traditions nobody explains but everyone follows. Fragments of the same instinct. Encode what matters, repeat it, pass it forward. So how did cavemen survive the Ice Age? Not through toughness alone, through tailored clothing engineered from bone needles, through shelters built from the bones of the largest animals on the tundra, through a diet that may have fueled faster thinking brains, through a culture of memory that made survival knowledge too important to lose. Every time you put on a coat that fits, share a meal with people you trust, or repeat advice your parents gave you, you're running a version of the program your ancestors built to survive a world buried in ice. So the next time your room drops 5 degrees and you reach for the thermostat without a second thought, remember this. Somewhere in how you dress, how you bond, and what you pass down, the Ice Age never really ended. You're just surviving it more comfortably than they did.